I think it's time to reckon with the fact that the Rangers offense is absolutely in the toilet right now.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into the absolute doo-doo garbage that the Rangers offense is right now and some, hopefully, pitching on reinforcements on the way, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, the Rangers have scored just the lowly 1 run in back-to-back games against the Detroit Tigers, who are sitting at 4th in the AL Central. It's a little more excusable on Monday's game, getting just absolutely worn down by one of the best pitchers in the league in Tariq Skubal. But when it happens again against Jack Flaherty, a guy who is admittedly having a better season than he has in years past, but is by no means one of the best pitchers in the league, and he's finally a righty, which the Rangers have hit better against righties than against lefty starters. When it happens twice in a row, and it's not just these 2 times in a row, it's been happening basically since the calendar flipped over to May, it's start to look at a bigger picture and say, okay, this is not working. Whatever's happening on offense, it's not working. It has been the Corey Seager show and a little bit the Marcus Semien show. And for the month of April, it was the Adolis Garcia show. And outside of that and some consistent contributions from Josh Smith, there just has not been much firepower in this lineup, especially coming off of last year where the Rangers had one of the best offenses in baseball, definitely the best offense in the American League. Maybe not quite what the Braves were doing level, but still an incredibly deep and talented offense. And heading into this year, you lose Mitch Garver, you think, okay, well, that's really the only regular that the Rangers lost from last year in this lineup. And you add in super prospect Wyatt Langford, you add in a full year of Evan Carter, you lose Robbie Grossman for about a month and a half until the Rangers decided to make a trade for him. You say, okay, there's no way this offense is worse than last year. At the worst case scenario, they're going to be the same as last year. Corey Seager is an absolute machine built for destroying baseballs. Now, is he going to have a 1,000 OPS every single year? I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case. It'd be nice. A 10-13 OPS last year and a couple points away from a batting title and a one Shohei Ohtani away from an AL MVP. That's probably peak Corey Seager, but again, we only got 119 games of it. And he's been doing nothing but hitting for power since he joined the Rangers. Last year, he added an average in the on base back to about where you'd expect them for Corey Seager. This year was a slow start, but he's very much back in line with what about his career numbers are, and he's been absolutely on fire since the calendar flipped over to May, or really since that go-ahead game-winning home run against the A's in Oakland. But the rest of this lineup, you look around and you think, okay, this is not what I expected. This is not what the Rangers expected, and it's not just this Rangers offense. And it's easy to say, oh, offense is down league wide, and it is. But there's still plenty of great hitters. Like the very top, 5-ish% of hitters have found a way to still maintain their dominance. Corey Seager is putting up basically peak Corey Seager numbers for the last month or so. Overall, Marcus Semien has been pretty darn good. Guys like Aaron Judge, who had a slow start, he has been just, again, the best hitter on the planet. Juan Soto's been amazing. Shohei Ohtani has been absolutely incredible. There have been plenty of hitters that have done well with whatever's happening around baseball that is making offense go down. And I think a big part of it is the baseballs. Yes, the baseballs. MLB owns the company that produces the baseballs, and we've known this for years, but they manipulate them at their whims to get whatever kind of results they're looking for. And this has been a thing really in the public eye since 2019, when the baseballs were so incredibly juiced that Danny Santana had a 30 homer season that year, and everyone's like, nope, it's just because the baseballs are just fine. That's what it is. It is just because everyone around Major League Baseball just happened to have amazing seasons all that year. It was not for any other reason. Yeah, 28 home runs by Danny Santana in 130 games back in 2019. If that wasn't a sign of, hey, these balls be juiced, then I don't really know exactly what is. And for years, it's fluctuated. Usually, it's not just these early season trends. And the thing that frustrates me the most about this, and this point I really want to drive home, was based on a highlight clip that was circulating around Twitter from our old friend, Aroldis Chapman. It was a one-run game, which I just already saying that, Aroldis Chapman in a one-run game against the Dodgers offense with runners on first and second. And there was a ball that was hit by Teoscar Hernandez off of Aroldis Chapman that immediately looked like a home run off the bat. Like, for sure, felt like a 3-run go-ahead homer that would end up being a game-deciding homer, because the Pirates' offense is even worse than the Rangers. Immediately when it's off the bat, Aroldis Chapman spikes his glove on the ground. This ball was hit 107 miles an hour, and there's this tweet by Michael Casper. A tweet I said, since 2015, which I believe is the start of the StatCast era, there have been 195 batted balls struck between 107.0 and 107.4 miles an hour, with a launch angle of between 29 and 30 degrees, including this one. And they've traveled, on average, 421.4 feet. This is only the 5th such ball to go 380 feet or fewer, and only the 14th to have not been a home run. So basically 200 balls hit just like that one that Chapman gave up, and only 5 of them have gone fewer than 380 feet. Pittsburgh is not a super, pitcher's park. It is not a place where the ball doesn't travel. It's a little bit more of a pitcher's park, more because of the dimensions, but not because of the conditions. It's not a place where, balls just go out there to die. Like in Oakland in the early season in night games, or late season night games. In those colder weather conditions, like Seattle, if you're trying to hit a ball 100 or 420 feet in Seattle in night in September, or early in the season in April, then it's going to be really darn difficult for you. But seeing balls like this, seeing reactions like this to a ball that ended up being a pretty easy flyout, it just goes to show you, it's not the only time this has happened, but it has been one of the more prevalent times. It goes to show you, there's something different with these baseballs. When hitters and pitchers allow a contact, when the play like that happens, hitters and pitchers, Major League Baseball players, they know exactly what the result's going to be, or have a pretty general feeling. When a guy hits one off his bat and he says, oh, that's 110 miles an hour at 28 degree launch angle, that's going to be a homer. So they usually start to strut. And there have been plenty of instances like that, plenty of balls that off the bat look like they would be balls that found the gap, or made their way over the fence, that have just died over and over and over again on the warning track. And I don't know what else to say other than it has to be the baseballs. And Major League Baseball has been, time and time again, just completely tight-lipped about this, completely denying what is so obvious to everyone playing the games, everyone watching the games, everyone paying attention. Even scientists proved it with tests on the baseballs in 2019 saying, hey, these balls are juiced. These balls have been altered so that they fly a little bit further, so there are more home runs, and that's exactly what happened in 2019. The Minnesota Twins in 2019 set the record for most home runs by a team in Major League Baseball history. Now, the 2019 Twins had a pretty good offense, including Mitch Garver's great season. Actually, that might have been 2021. But the 2019 Twins were a pretty good offense, but not historic, not greatest offense of all time, not the 27 Yankees, but they had more home runs than the 27 Yankees. And I believe the Braves got close. Maybe they tied them. Maybe they just passed them. Last year's Brave offense, that was a historic offense that should have been putting up those crazy, crazy numbers because it was so incredibly deep and so incredibly talented. And my problem with this is not that Major League Baseball doctors the baseballs to make offense go up or down on a little sliding scale as they see fit. That's fine. That's their prerogative. They can do that. They own the sport. They are the sport. They set the rules. They own the baseballs. But the fact that they don't even admit to it or pretend like it's not happening makes it incredibly frustrating and makes it harder to be objective and objectively analyze what's happening with these teams, with these games, with these hitters. It's like, does this guy suck now, or are the baseballs just not carrying? Can this guy no longer hit for power? Is what he's done previously in his career just a mirage? Or is it just something that is off with the baseballs? Are all pitchers just amazing now? Or has there been something done to the product to make this easier for pitchers? Not entirely sure, because Major League Baseball will never tell us. It's one of the many things that I have an issue with Rob Manfred. Coming up, we're going to look a little bit more at this offense. Who on this offense is most to blame for the struggles to score this year? Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best way to get tickets for every kind of event you're trying to look for. If you're looking for a sporting event, well, you're probably listening to this podcast. You want to go to some sports games. You want to go to a Rangers game? Game Time is the best way to get your tickets. You want to go to a Rough Riders game? Game Time is the best way to get your tickets. If you're looking for tickets for a Mavs finals game, Game Time is the best way to get your tickets. They've got all kinds of different ways to get your tickets, including last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They've also got flash deals. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. You can also toggle all-in pricing that'll show you exactly what your ticket's going to cost up front with no surprise fees on the back end. This is something that I love about Game Time. They've also got the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, with the Rangers struggling to score so much this year, it's easy to go back at last year's offense and say, was that a fluke? Was that ever going to be repeatable? Were all of those performances just absolutely an aberration, never to ever happen again? And I think it's easy to say that looking back in hindsight and looking at what this team is doing right now, but I really don't think that was the case. Now, there's definitely a little bit more evidence with Donnie Ecker being the Rangers offensive coordinator, and Donnie Ecker was the hitting coach of the 2021 San Francisco Giants, which had one of the best offenses we've seen in forever. Just an absolutely historic offense with lots of power and lots of career years, or career resurgent years, from guys who were on the older end of the scale. I mean, Brandon Crawford having a nearly 900 OPS at age 34. Evan Longoria's resurgent season. Brandon Belt having an absolutely incredible offensive season that year. Guys like Donovan Solano, Alex Dickerson, and Mikey Yastrzemski all having great years. It's easy to look at that and say, I don't know. And also Buster Posey. Well, Buster Posey's just a Hall of Famer, and him doing that in his final year of Major League Baseball at age 34 was honestly kind of an incredible way for him to go out, and I think that's just Buster Posey being Buster Posey. But the year after that, the offense of the San Francisco Giants went right into the stinker. Just an absolutely dreadful offensive season for everybody outside of Jock Peterson. And so it's easy to look at that and say, okay, well, maybe it was just a one-time thing. Maybe that Rangers offense was just getting the most out of some guys. But the Rangers didn't have a bunch of washed-up veterans who had been amazing in years past but hadn't been anywhere near the best version of themselves in a long time. They had a bunch of guys who were pretty much in their prime. I mean, the oldest guy that was an everyday player for the Rangers last year was, well, Robbie Grossman at 33, but Mitch Garver at 32 and Marcus Semien at 32. And the rest of these guys who were having fantastic seasons, Jankowski had a great first half, but overall was about where he's been in his career. Leote had an incredible first half. He's definitely a younger player. Adolis Garcia had a career year by far. Nathaniel Lowe didn't have the best year, but Jonah Heim had what was the best year of his career, and he was only around an average offensive catcher. But you look at those guys up and down the list, and it's not the same. It's not the same as what happened with the 2021 Giants. And you look at those guys, and there's no reason to think that they couldn't repeat what they did last year. Now, there have been pundits saying for years and years and years, since he came up to the big leagues with the Rangers, that Adolis Garcia, okay, he's not going to keep doing this. There's no way this keeps up. There's no way he's going to, maintain this kind of pace because, the athleticism or whatever, the swing and miss, yada, 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 and on and on. And all he's done every year is just get better and better and better and better. So maybe this is the first year as an everyday regular that Adolis Garcia doesn't end up with a better year than last year. I think that's entirely possible. A 39 homer, 836 OPS season. Maybe that's not happening this year. Maybe the walk rate isn't going to be as insane of a jump as it was from 2022 to 23 as it will be in 23 to 24. We've already seen the walks not quite be there as much for Adolis Garcia as they were last year. And that's fine. If all he is a 3.5 WAR player, which is what he's averaged as a regular with the Rangers, then that's still a very, very good player. You look at Nathaniel Lowe, and I think this is one of the ones that's been most frustrating for me, and most frustrating for this Rangers offense, and I'm sure most frustrating for Nathaniel Lowe, is just the lack of power from Lowe. The batting average and on base are about where they've been, about where they were last year. On base of 363 so far this year. He's working those walks at an elite rate, making good swing decisions for the most part. Still a little passive for my taste, but he is just not able to sting the baseball this year with any authority. I mean, his expected slugging percentage is in the bottom 3% of baseball at 306. That's his expected slugging. Now, his actual slugging has been a little bit better than that at 341, but still not great. His overall batting run value is in the 68th percentile of baseball, so still above average, but he is not getting those hard hit balls, not driving the ball with authority, not getting that high exit velocity that we're used to seeing from Nathaniel Lowe. It's not just that he's, hitting balls hard and they're dying on the warning track, which is what you could probably attribute, if that was happening, to the ball being dejuiced or whatever. He's just not stinging the baseball like we've seen from Nathaniel Lowe. And this is now 2 years in a row where he has just not really been driving the ball with authority. I mean, last year he was absolutely piling on the doubles, just piling on those doubles. Not so much with the home run ball last year, but 38 doubles to 17 homers. Still a decent chunk of extra base hits, but not quite putting the ball over the fence like you would expect a first baseman to do. And this year it's been even worse. And this year for Jonah Heim, it has been, the last month has been just brutal for Jonah Heim. Just absolutely brutal. The last 28 days, he's played 23 games. He's got a batting average of 161, an on base of 216, and a slugging percentage of 222. I mean, he has just been absolutely brutal at the plate right now, to the fact where he was dropping down a bunt in last night's game as a catcher, because that's what the defensive alignment was giving him. And he's like, well, I'm not driving the ball with any authority right now. I mean, he's got 1 home run in his last 28 days, and it's just been brutal to watch, honestly, what he's been doing this year offensively. It's tough. But with Jonah Heim, he's still providing that value defensively. The framing metrics haven't liked him as much. The blocking metrics, defensive metrics haven't liked him as much this year as they have in years past. But he's still a great game caller and a big reason why this pitching staff has done so well. And catcher offense is always fluctuating. It just always is. Unless you're, Adley Rutschman or, Mike Piazza or Pudge Rodriguez, one of the offensive greats, usually your offense as a catcher is going to fluctuate from year to year. And that's fine. Last year, Jonah Heim was an all-star. He was much better offensively in the first half than in the second half. But overall, solid offensive player. And if he's your 7 or 8 hole hitter, which I think he's going to stay in the 8 hole for quite a while, then that's fine. But you look up and down the rest of this lineup, and there's just been some big craters. I mean, Evan Carter has had such a rough season, and I think that back injury bothered him a lot more than he let on, and he's going to be out for possibly another month. It's even worse than they initially thought, which is incredibly frustrating. I wish that he had not come back as soon as he did, and maybe they had given him some more time off, a 10-day IL stint, as opposed to the, 3-4 days, maybe a week that he took off initially without going on the IL, and then tried to come back and just could not play through it. Clearly wasn't right, clearly wasn't hitting the ball like we've seen Evan Carter hit the ball, or just even having at-bats or plate appearances like we've seen Evan Carter have quality plate appearances, even when he's not driving the ball with authority. I mean, there's basically 3 categories of hitters on this team. There have been the guys, which have been Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Josh Smith, the inconsistent kind of underperformers in Jonah Heim, Nathaniel Lowe, and right now it's Adolis Garcia, because he's got an OPS plus of just 106 right now. And then you had the rookie struggles from Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford. This is an offense that was supposed to be a whole lot better, but it's not an offense that I think can't come out of it. And especially if they start to rally the troops down the stretch with some of these reinforcements that are coming back. We're talking about that right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's a winner-take-all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. If you're feeling very excited about this Rangers opportunity to go back-to-back as World Series champs, right now they have the 10th best odds to win the World Series in 2024. Actually tied for 9th with the Minnesota Twins at plus 2,500. If you're thinking that the next DFW championship is going to be coming from the Dallas Mavericks, right now they are in the NBA Finals. They are a plus 188, so not the favorites to win the NBA Finals. Luka Doncic at plus 210 to win Finals MVP. So go check out those odds and see everything you can bet on at FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now, overall, this Rangers offense has been just pretty dreadful over the last month or so. Early on in the season, they were finding ways, even though they weren't slugging, they were finding ways to score bunches of runs. And so far since the calendar, really, since that series against Oakland, really, since they went to Colorado, they have just not found ways to score. They have not blown games open with their offense, and they've still gotten decent pitching. I mean, the starting pitching was supposed to be the biggest problem for this team heading into the year, and it just hasn't been. It's been one of their greatest strengths. Now, the depth of this bullpen hasn't been elite at times, but the back end, when the Rangers do get into save situations, they have been nails because of guys like David Robertson and because of Kirby Yates. And, the starting rotation has been very, very solid, and even the back end, the B side of this pen, has been solid at times, but again, very, very inconsistent. This was a good start from Dane Dunning. Not great, but good enough, given the circumstances. Only 4 hits allowed, just 1 walk for him, and all 3 of the runs came on the home runs. The 2-run homer in this one, and a solo homer. Let's say a 1-run homer, like an absolute casual. Solo homer by Riley Green as well. Not absolute moonshots, but definitely balls that were expected to be home runs in pretty much every park. And not ones that you say, okay, well, this was just an absolute cheapie. Dane Dunning definitely does still give up those home run balls, but limiting those walks was definitely helpful in limiting the offense with runners in scoring position. Overall, just the entire game long, no matter whether it was Dane Dunning, whether it was this bullpen, the Rangers kept the Tigers from adding on in this one, 0-for-5 with runners in scoring position. This was a good enough pitching performance to get the win. But the offense being just completely shut down by the likes of Jack Flaherty, Faedo, Shelby Miller, Thornton, Foley as well. It's just not quite good enough. And this Rangers team came into this series feeling much better about themselves, coming off of that 2-game, a dusting of of the Arizona Diamondbacks in that one. They also took 2 out of 3 against the Marlins in Miami, which was solid. Then you head into the series against the Tigers at 29-30 with a chance to go above 500. And even if you only win 2 out of 3 games against the Tigers, who are better this year, but still not great, then you're still at 500, which is where you're hoping to be, and still in the mix, which the Rangers are definitely still in the mix, but it's looking less and less likely that they're able to catch those Seattle Mariners and take home the AL West crown, which they did not do last year. And the Astros have not been falling out of the mix. They have suffered a lot of injuries. You might even say even worse injuries than the Rangers, especially with the news about Christian Javier going down for the year with Tommy John surgery, also Jose Urquidy having Tommy John surgery. It's just been a brutal year for pitching injuries in the state of Texas. I don't know what it is. The Rangers are just 4.5 games out of the wild card, but if you're looking at the AL West, the Rangers are right now 5.5 games back of the Mariners and only 1.5 ahead of the Astros. This is a team that it needs to start figuring out its hitting, and most of the guys on the injured list, the crazy amount of injuries that you're still waiting to come back, almost all of them are pitchers. And the Rangers have, 2 position players that are on the IL? Josh Young and Justin Foscue, which, granted, those are sizable contributors. And I think Josh Young was primed for an absolutely monstrous season. And I think this team would be in a vastly different place. Even this whole offense, I think, would be in a vastly different place if Josh Young had been healthy this whole year. But also we would have seen a lot less of Josh Smith and wouldn't know that, hey, I think this guy might actually be a reliable everyday bat that you're going to have to find a place for whenever Josh Young comes back. Maybe it ends up being at first base if Nathaniel Lowe keeps not being able to hit for power. Maybe that's what ends up happening. Maybe he ends up playing a little bit of left field if Evan Carter's back injury keeps him out even longer than the 1 month that we're thinking. I mean, who knows? But the Rangers did get some good news this week about their injured pitchers, with 2 of their starters facing live hitting yesterday in John Gray and also Max Scherzer. Scherzer threw a 2-inning simulated game, 40 pitches. He's waiting to see how he recovers, to see when he will start that rehab assignment, but he is feeling very, very good, which is incredibly encouraging. I also saw a 40 to 50 pitch bullpen session for John Gray, who is also feeling really darn good. He is going to be an option to start on Sunday, join back into this rotation, and get the guy who has been, for someone who has made more than 3 starts this year, has been the Rangers' best starting pitcher so far this season. The Rangers can use every single bit of help they have coming back to, make that pen a little bit deeper, have more guys in this rotation that are proven solid and fantastic starters that we have seen so far this year. And also, Tyler Mahle is going to face live hitters for the first of 4 times today. It'll be the 4 times that he will face live hitters before he starts his rehab assignment. That is an encouraging sign. It's probably going to be, I think, late July before we see Tyler Mahle on the hill in a major league game. But just seeing him on the hill facing live hitters today is an encouraging sign. Like I said about Evan Carter, he is going to be out for probably at least a month. It's a little bit more of an intense lower back injury than we initially anticipated, which isn't great. But hopefully by the end of June, we'll see exactly when Josh Young starts his rehab assignment. There haven't been many more updates on him, although he is swinging off of a tee. Last we heard, he has been doing some drills. He has been feeling good about that wrist, and by golly, he cannot get here soon enough, because this team, while they are not out of it by any means, the entire goal of this season was to just stick around until those reinforcements in the rotation come back, because you thought that the pitching would be the problem this year. It has not been. It has been the offense. And the offense just needs to figure things out. That's it. This is the lineup. This is pretty much what the lineup's going to look like for the next few years as well. So the offense being down this year, if last year's offense was just a fluke, if Jonah Heim is not really an average offensive Major League Baseball player, which I think he can be. I think he can even be above average. I'm really a believer in Jonah Heim and Nathaniel Lowe, both those guys who have really not hit to what they expected. If those guys start to not hit, then you start to have some more questions about this lineup, which heading into this year looked like it was going to be not only great, but great for years to come. You need to see a little bit more from Wyatt Langford, which, again, he's a rookie. He's 22 years old. He spent about 5 seconds in the minors and absolutely demolished every level, so he deserves to be here, but he is still figuring some things out, as is Evan Carter, who I think those injury numbers, I'm going to take these numbers with a grain of salt when I look back at them at the end of the year, because he played so long through that injury, and I really think that it made quite a big difference for him. But it's not just a this year problem. It's not just the offense stinks this year, so next year there will be some, prospect that's waiting to jump in and make a big impact as a rookie, or, there's going to be some big, hitter that the Rangers are going to be signing to, bolster this lineup. That's not the case. This is the group. These are the guys for the next 2-3 years after this. It is going to be mostly this same lineup. And unless there is something figured out here in the back half of the season, middle third of the season, just in the next couple weeks, just start to show some signs of life. You can blame some of it on the baseball. You can blame some of it on the individual drop-off and the wear and tear and the whatever World Series hangover. But if this ends up being the inconsistent offense that follows this team for the rest of this year, it's not just a problem for this year, but it is a problem for years and years to come that this Rangers team absolutely did not anticipate. Now that's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.